There's something in the basement my husband doesn't want me to see. I thought he was cheating, but now I only wish that was true. I have been married to my husband, Matt, for 8 years. We've always had an honest and open relationship, or so I thought. Things began to change about a month ago. Matt became distant, and I noticed he was spending a lot of time in our basement. It was strange, because we hardly ever used it. When I asked him what he was doing, he gave vague answers, or said he was just sorting through some old things. One day, I came home early and found the basement door locked. I knocked and asked Matt what was going on. He told me he was working on a surprise for me and that I shouldn't go in. Since our anniversary was coming up, I figured he was planning something nice. But days turned into weeks, and Matt was still spending hours locked down there, even late at night. I tried talking to him, but he insisted everything was fine. My gut told me something was wrong. One night, I couldn't sleep. Curiosity got the best of me. I decided I had to find out what was going on. I quietly grabbed the spare key, and when I opened the door, I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a man I'd never seen before. He looked disheveled and scared. Matt, who was also in the room, looked shocked when he saw me. He rushed over, trying to explain that the man was an old friend who had gotten into trouble and needed a place to hide. I was horrified. My heart was pounding, and I didn't know if we were in danger. Without thinking, I grabbed my phone and called the police. Matt begged me not to, but I couldn't think straight. When the police arrived, it turned out the man was a fugitive wanted for a nonviolent crime. They took him into custody. Matt was in tears, apologizing, saying he was just trying to help an old friend who he believed was wrongfully accused. Now, I'm torn. Part of me wonders if I should have listened to Matt before calling the police, but another part of me is shaken that my husband would keep such a huge secret and bring a fugitive into our home. It's been a couple of weeks since my original post, and a lot has happened. I never expected so many responses, and after reading them all, I knew I owed you an update. After the night the police took Matt's friend into custody, I was in shock. I couldn't believe that the man I loved and trusted would do something like this. Our home felt tainted, so I moved in with my sister to clear my head. Matt tried calling me multiple times, but I didn't answer. I was hurt, angry, and confused. After a few days, my sister convinced me to meet him somewhere public to talk. We met at a local coffee shop. He looked miserable. He started by apologizing over and over and explained everything. Matt and this man, who I'll call Tom, grew up together. They were close but lost touch after high school. Tom recently reached out saying he was in trouble. He told Matt he'd been framed for a crime he didn't commit and needed a place to stay while figuring things out. Matt, remembering their old friendship, agreed to help without really thinking. As he explained, I could see he was sincere, but I couldn't help being angry that he didn't trust me enough to tell me what was happening. During our conversation, Matt got a call from his lawyer. The police were pressing charges against him for harboring a fugitive. He broke down right there in the coffee shop. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, but despite everything, I didn't want to see him hurt. We decided to try counseling to see if we could work through this. We also agreed he needed a lawyer for his legal issues. Over the next few weeks, we went to counseling separately. It helped me process my feelings and realize that even though what he did was wrong and irresponsible, he wasn't trying to harm anyone. He was just trying to help a friend. Meanwhile, Matt learned more about Tom's situation. It turned out Tom really was being framed for embezzlement. Matt wanted to help prove Tom's innocence, but his lawyer advised him not to, given his own legal troubles. Matt's court date came, and I went with him for support. He pleaded guilty to harboring a fugitive and was sentenced to community service, probation, and a fine. We were relieved he didn't have to go to jail. We've continued with counseling and have started attending sessions together. We're focusing on trust, honesty, and communication. Our counselor is helping us rebuild what was broken little by little. We know this is just the start of a long road to recovery, but I feel like the fog is lifting, and there's hope. I still wonder if things would have been different if he had just told me about Tom from the start. But focusing on what-ifs won't change what's already happened. Now we're concentrating on healing and moving forward. It's been a few more weeks since my last update, and I wanted to share the progress and some new developments. After Matt's court date and our continued counseling, things seemed to be getting better. Our communication was improving, and I started to feel like we were finally on the same page again. But life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges. One evening, while we were having dinner at my sister's place, Matt got a call from Tom. Tom had been released on bail, and he had gathered evidence that proved his innocence. He needed Matt's help to contact a lawyer who specialized in cases like his, since Matt had done a lot of research trying to help Tom earlier. I could see how eager Matt was to help. Before all of this, I would have supported him without a second thought, but now I felt anxious and unsure. Still, I didn't want my fears to stop him from helping someone in real need. I told him to do what he thought was right, but to keep me involved this time. Matt worked closely with Tom and the lawyer, making sure to update me on everything. Meanwhile, our counseling sessions were getting more intense as we started to explore deeper issues in our relationship. The counselor helped us realize that Matt's decision to help Tom without talking to me wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was part of a pattern of him making big decisions without considering my feelings. That was hard for both of us to face, but especially for Matt. He seemed weighed down by guilt. As time passed, Matt became more and more distracted, spending hours on Tom's case and getting emotionally invested. I tried to be supportive, but it started to strain our relationship again. Finally, the day came when Tom's case went to court. Matt was a nervous wreck, and I decided to go with him for support. The court session was intense, but thanks to the evidence and the skill of the lawyer, Tom was acquitted. Outside the courtroom, Matt and Tom shared a heartfelt moment, and for a brief second, I thought things might finally be okay. But life had another twist in store. As we were leaving the courthouse, a journalist approached us. She was covering Tom's case and had learned about Matt harboring him. She wanted to interview Matt about the experience. He declined, but it made him realize how much his actions could have affected not just our lives, but others as well. It was a wake-up call. That night, we talked a lot. Matt expressed his guilt and told me he wanted to be a better person, not just for me, but for himself. He decided to get more involved in community service, not just because it was part of his sentence, but as a long-term commitment. A few months have passed since my last update, and a lot has changed. I felt it was time to share the final chapter of this saga. First, Matt and I moved back into our house. At first, it felt tainted, but with time, it started to feel like home again. We made some changes to the interior, giving it a fresh start. Matt's community service was going well, and he became deeply involved with a local charity. His dedication to helping others was inspiring, but it was also changing him. One day, Matt came home with exciting news. He had been offered a full-time position at the charity. It was a great opportunity, but it meant relocating to another state. He was torn. He didn't want to leave me, but he felt it was something he needed to do. After a long conversation, we decided it was best for him to take the job. It was his chance to start fresh and make a real impact. But what did that mean for us? We agreed to try a long-distance relationship, planning to reassess things after 6 months. Matt moved, and we kept in touch through calls and texts. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the distance started to strain our relationship. Our conversations felt more forced and less frequent. During this time, I began reflecting on my own life and realized I'd put many of my own dreams on hold for our marriage. I decided to go back to school to pursue a master's degree in a field I'd always been passionate about. 4 months into our long-distance relationship, Matt came to visit. We were both excited to see each other, but something felt off. The emotional distance between us was as real as the physical one. We spent the weekend trying to reconnect, but it felt like we were two different people trying to piece together two different puzzles. On the last night of his visit, we sat down to talk. It became clear that we had both changed and grown in separate directions. We had different goals and dreams now. After a tearful conversation, we decided to end our marriage. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, but deep down, I knew it was the right one. We began the process of separation, and while it was painful, there was also a sense of relief. We were free to follow our dreams without holding each other back. Now, Matt is thriving in his new job, making a difference in many lives. As for me, I'm halfway through my master's program and have never felt more fulfilled. But here's the twist. Matt and I still talk. Our marriage didn't work, but we're building a friendship. We support each other as we move forward in our new lives. I never would have imagined that the woman who found a fugitive in her basement would end up where I am today. This journey has been one of self-discovery, pain, and ultimately, growth. Matt and I had our struggles, but this experience taught us so much about ourselves and each other. We didn't get a fairy tale ending, but in a way, we got something even more valuable. The chance to find ourselves and build the lives we always wanted, even if it's not together.